Welcome to this week in the world of wrestling.
Welcome to TWitWoW, the best wrestling podcast made for wrestling fans, by wrestling fans, on the web today. I'm John, that's my cohort and commentary Ashton, and this is our Lucha Underground review.
And that is one of the most enthusiastic intros I've heard you do in a long time.
And I was getting ready to say, bro, this is really one of the perks of what we do. Because, you know, we encounter those shows that leaves us a little downtrodden, leaves us hemming and hawing about what could be better, and maybe even looking a little bleakly at what could be worse and holding on to that hope. But shows like this that are this fantastic are what make this podcast for me so much fun. And shown with you, of course. I gotta say, guys, this episode of Lucha Underground, I'll come out and say it right now, right next to the episode where Puma and Mundo main evented one-on-one, this has to be my favorite episode of Lucha Underground. We got amazing matches tonight, more great cinematic segments, and further backstory for some characters, and I can't wait to talk about that in particular because I thought that was brilliantly executed. I think Lucha Underground, week after week, continues to assemble its identity and be one of the premier wrestling programs just in the industry in general. I mean, Ashton, what did you think of it, man?
Well, I won't necessarily go as far as to say it was my very favorite episode or my second favorite episode. It just seems like one in a long line of really good episodes that this company has been putting out. I can't name an episode so far that I like less than the rest. But on that same note, I can't really name any one episode so far that I like significantly more than the rest either. They're all just great.
It really is a fantastic product.
It's one of those things where, like, if I had to grade the episodes on a scale of 1 to 10, I don't necessarily think that we've had anything above, like, a 9, but I also don't think that we've had anything below, like, a 7.5 at worst.
I would agree with that. I think you actually articulated that perfectly.
Yeah, it's like a shooting term is very good grouping.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what, again, and I say it every time, and I think it bears repeating, I mean, how fortunate are we that we get this in NXT back-to-back?
This and NXT back-to-back, and then on Sunday we get ROH, and then next week we're going to have NXT in the pay-per-view.
It's crazy. It is such a great time, even for those kinds of products alone, to be a wrestling fan. But enough blathering on about that. Let's get to our first formal segment, Heat of the Night. And, I mean, if you couldn't tell by the intro, no fire's coming this way. I got 0 heats of the night tonight. Ashton, what about you?
Well, I don't have any technical heats of the night. I do have one nitpick, and the reason it's not a full-on heat of the night is because I've mentioned it before, and I just felt like I had to say something because it was really bad tonight.
Yeah, let's have it out, man.
Well, I mean, just kind of given the context clues, can you guess?
I'm guessing it has something to do with Matt Striker's commentary?
During the main event, actually.
Well, did he say anything in particular that just kind of annoyed you, or, like, what was it? Because
nothing in particular, just the concept. It was one of those things where it seemed like every time Sexy Star did something good, it was, oh, she's so brave for doing this, she's a woman and she's doing this against men, and every time something bad happened to her, it was, oh, well, I guess that's to be expected when you're in there with men.
You know, I'm really glad we had a discussion about this on our last episode because I went a little bit more in depth with my thoughts, and I said I love what they're doing with Sexy Star, putting her with this kind of caliber of talent, putting her in these spots on the card. And I think they can book Sexy Star to a point where I could have that believability of her being even a world title contender. Like, I think they can transcend those barriers, but the biggest hurdle is that commentary has to accept it. And I'm really glad you mentioned it again. And you know what? Yeah, I'm glad you classified it as a nitpick because we have been over it before. But I don't think we should stop talking about it until they stop doing it.
Yeah, well, because here's my thing. I want really badly to champion Lucha Underground for the fact that they are probably the first mainstream company to be really open about having women and men wrestle each other. But I can't because they first of all, they stroke themselves so hard because of it. They're like, oh, here at Lucha Underground, we have women and men and just blah, 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 blah. But on that same note, and the second reason here is because they say that like, oh, there's this groundbreaking thing, and they're equals, and it's not a problem that the women wrestle with the men. But then every time something good comes from a woman, they act like it's this brave, like, oh, she's such a hero. And then every time something bad happens, it's like, well, I guess that's what happens when you put women in there with men. And like, the reason that I don't have a problem with Ivelisse's promo at the beginning is because she's a heel, and she was cutting a heel promo. And
right.
I know somebody on YouTube has said before that Matt Stryker is a heel, but you can't call somebody a heel when they're talking about being chivalrous. Like, chivalry in general is a babyface kind of thing, but when it comes to when you're talking about how, oh, I just want to go in there and help her, when you're talking about a woman who's supposed to be on equal footing with men getting beaten in a wrestling match, chivalry is a douchey thing to resort to.
I love what Sexy Star represents, and I really felt this affinity to her. Like, I was gravitating towards this gimmick from her first video package where he talks about her origins, how I think she was the victim of some kind of an assault or just some kind of thing because she was a woman, and then just the whole world thought they could take advantage of her. And so she donned the mask, and she said, to all the little girls, to every woman who doesn't feel beautiful or this, that, or the other, never again. And I really dug that. I'm like, that's really cool. Go out there, empower yourself, kick some ass. But the idea that she can't really have that story and be that badass because of commentary, and I think playing up the tropes that, oh, look at her fight her heart out, but oh, she's in peril, and oh, all this stuff. I think you're really inhibiting something that could really be brilliant here.
Yeah, I mean, like, if you would have a male who is the exact same size as Sexy Star, height, weight, I mean, I guess that the male proportion would be a little bit heavier because men tend to have more muscle while women tend to have more fat on their body. But if it would be proportionately the same size male, the commentary would not have been saying that stuff. The commentary wouldn't have been talking about how, oh, I just want to go out there and help him, or, oh, just a shame that he's getting beat up like this, or, oh, it's such a brave thing for him to be sticking his neck out there like he is, because they don't think of guys that way. But of course it's a woman, so they're making it seem like it's this completely different plane of existence. And I think that they just need to make up their mind. Are women equal to men and they're allowed to fight men in the ring, or are women lesser in the ring like the WWE does, and they're in a completely separate division?
I think that's a perfect way to end it. It's really just a matter of having to make up your mind. So with that said...
Although, you know what, though? The reason that I said earlier that I do want to champion them for putting women on the same plane is because tonight a woman main evented.
Yeah.
I mean, this is like, what, the 5th, 6th episode, and already we've got a female main eventer. So, I mean, that's kind of the main reason that I said initially that I really want to champion them for being progressive in that way. But then again, you've got the freaking commentary acting like they're just, women are just lesser overall in the ring. And it's contradictory, but at the end of the day, when the company gets something right, I can't necessarily fault them for that, just because commentary screwed it up.
Exactly. I think that was well said. I can't really add anything to that. I think you articulated both of our sentiments perfectly. So with that said, I think we could get into our Lucha Underground review. And as you noted a little bit prior, Ashton, we opened this up with Son of Havoc.
No, we didn't. Nope. We had a backstage segment to open this up with Big Rick.
That's right, we did. Yeah, you caught me there, because that was the first live segment, but we'll get to that in a segment. The first actual segment was cinematic. It was Big Rick and Cuerno. Big Rick was looking over some paperwork. He affixes his signature to it. We're thinking that it's an official contract. In fact, Cuerno even says it is. And I think it was the $100,000 apparently signing bonus, and Big Rick wanted that in cash. And yet again, consistently, and I love how Lucha Underground handles its characters and how it creates characters. Big Rick is looking like a boss, working over that paperwork, smoking a cigar, looking just imposing as all hell. And he says, I want that $100,000 in cash. And Cuerno assures him, I'm good for it. So we've got some dealings going on here, Ashton.
Absolutely, yeah. Big Rick is signing that big money contract, man. He knows what he's worth, and he is going to hold Dario to it.
Yeah, it's not the only one that's going to hold Dario to it, but we'll get to that much later.
You know what's hilarious about this?
What's that?
when you think $100,000, that's a huge deal. Like, that is a crap load of money. John Cena sneezes that every day.
I know, man. I know. Crazy. But anything else you want to say about this cinematic segment? Or
like, if John Cena was signing a contract and he saw that the signing bonus was $100,000, he would jump off a roof and slit his wrists on the way down.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I'm worth 10 times as much. So, yeah, it's crazy how the industry works. But I love how they're doing this whole storyline with the money and making it this big deal.
Yeah.
Because you know, it's funny, WWE has done this kind of thing in the past where it's like, oh, I'm putting a bounty on this guy for $100,000. And, you know, thinking back, I don't really think it was done all that well. I've really liked how they've done this whole storyline here with, like, you know, impress me and you get this money, and they've made it. I mean, in place of a championship, they've made it the most prestigious thing to vie for in Lucha Underground, oddly enough. So.
Yeah, I love it. I think that, in a way, that $100,000 that they've been kind of holding over everyone's head since episode 1 is sort of their, like, I guess, representation / symbolism that kind of stands for the championship in this promotion, at least so far.
Right.
Because that's kind of what all the top guys are vying for. Like, I'm waiting for Mil Muertes to get into that mix.
Yeah, really.
Like, are you kidding me? You're giving these two guys your $100,000? Have you seen what I've done in the ring? Have I even lost yet?
Yeah, and that's the weird thing, because we know they had an altercation the week prior, and Katrina is saying that she knows the darkness that lies in Cueto's heart, and he can't hide it forever, because soon all darkness...
Yeah, and she even said something about his key that Johnny Mundo ended up taking away later.
Oh, that's a great catch, dude, because, yeah, I think we'll get more into that later when we get to the Mundo segment, but I didn't even make that connection. Great catch by you there. Yeah, we're going to have to speculate on that a little bit later. But I do agree. I like how the money in lieu of actual championships seems to be the thing to vie for, and they're making it work. So, great cinematic segment here again. Big Rick, I love how they're handling the character. He comes off as a guy that would be legitimate muscle for some kind of, you know, billionaire or whatever, you know, some kind of authority figure. So it really works out. Glad to see they found a good fit for him. And now our first live segment in the ring is Son of Havoc and Ivelisse. Ivelisse is very angry, telling the crowd, "Shut up!" But unlike, you know, Vicky or Lana, she's got a real conviction to it. I love, just she seems like she's seething.
Yeah, like it seems like Vicky and Lana sound like they're saying it just to say it, whereas Ivelisse genuinely sounds like she's saying it at everybody.
Exactly.
Like, Lana and Vicky sound like they're reciting lines from a script. Ivelisse sounds like she is just straight up pissed off and wants everyone to shut up.
Exactly. And she is pissed off because she feels like Son of Havoc is looking like a joke. You know, it says the first week, fought a woman, and then, you know, I think she named her, you know, Sexy Star. Then he wrestled half a man in Mascarita Sagrada. And you know, it's getting ridiculous. And then Son of Havoc takes the mic and then he says, "That's why I'm issuing an open challenge for any man who's got the balls to come out to this ring and face me." And then we get the wonderful Pimpinella Escarata. Absolutely just marvelous, dude.
Yeah, I have my description of Pimpinella Escarlet. I don't know how to pronounce his last name, was a very flamboyant luchador in a singlet.
Yeah. You know, honestly, for me, and I guess that's just why when you watch WWE for as long as I have, or as it kind of gets hardwired into you, I thought, man, I haven't seen a guy with that much flamboyancy since Rico. And, you know, I just really got that vibe from him. But I really enjoyed this, man. And let me just take this segment as an opportunity to say something, and I've kind of touched on it before, but this really solidifies it for me. I love how Lucha Underground can do comedy or do, not even necessarily comedy. I think a more appropriate word for this, because I know the guy wants to be taken seriously, is playfulness. They can have a certain playfulness to it, but still maintain their credibility. I love that they're able to walk that tightrope, because this was a legitimate opening contest. I enjoyed what they did here.
Yeah, this was a good match, man. Pimpinella had some pretty impressive, like, I even have written down here, however flamboyant he may be, he's even more agile in the ring.
He really is, and that like shocked the heck out of me because commentary was saying that apparently he's been wrestling since the 80s. So you have to imagine.
Yeah, I mean he's a bigger guy too. It's not like he's built like one of these typical luchadors. He's a bigger, thicker guy.
Absolutely, and he's doing dives and coming off the ropes and this, that, and the other.
Yeah, he did a friggin' old school style crossbody on Ivelisse. He did a diving arm drag from the top rope and a friggin' like a gold dust type cannonball from the apron to the floor. He was doing some real agile, athletic stuff in there. And I mean, if he's been wrestling since the 80s, he's got to be at least 40, if not 50.
And see, I think here, and I gotta be careful, like, what I want to articulate next. I think we live in an age where, like, if this was a gimmick, right, in the 80s or the 90s, they would probably crank it up and just make all of his antics, like, relating in one way or another to his appearance and make him almost like Goldust, where it's, like, bizarre in head games. I think we're far more accepting of looks like this, so it doesn't really have that bizarre factor. You can't play it off of, oh, what's this? That's so against the norm. So he goes and he has a legitimate repertoire, and he goes and he gets things done in the ring, and I love it.
Yeah, I just looked it up, and he's 45 years old, so this was
Jesus.
some really impressive stuff.
What are they? I'm telling you, man, like, Goldust, so many guys in Japan, and now, like, Lucha Underground, you got guys, like, I don't know what fountain of youth they've kind of monopolized, but it's great, man, I'll tell you. And, yeah, because I was getting ready to say, the only really psychological or head games kind of tactic that Pimpinella does is towards the finish because, he's fending everybody off, but then Mascarita Sagrada comes in. And,
I loved this, dude. This was great.
Yeah, chasing Ivelisse all around, gets in the ring and kind of ducks, I think, a clothesline from Havoc and keeps chasing Ivelisse. And then Havoc distracted. He gets kissed on the mouth and then gets caught in a schoolboy. But that was the only head games that Pimpinella played, and I love that. Really, really well done opening contest.
Yeah, absolutely. This was a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Anything else you want to say about this match, about the people involved or anything, or should we move on to our next segment?
Not really. No, we can move on.
All right. What was our next segment? I'm going to leave that to you because I'm having a bit of trouble recollecting. We didn't get...
Up next, we had Johnny Mundo confronting Dario Cueto.
Oh, this was it. Okay, yes. Confronts him, pretty much grabs him by the scruff of his neck here and says, hey, I want my $100,000. And Cueto's assuring him, hey, I'll get it for you. And he says, look, it doesn't matter how many times you send Big Rick after me. I'm going to keep getting up, and my mission's just going to be clearer and clearer, and that's come find you and beat your ass. And Cueto's like, no, you don't have to do that. You don't have to do that. Look, I can guarantee you $100,000, but if you touch me, you get nothing. And, so they pretty much come to that resolution. Mundo, to Ashton's point earlier, takes the key from Cueto's neck, and he says, this is an insurance policy. Now, I just want to say now to get out of the way, Cueto does not get the key back, at least as far as I understand. I mean, what do you think the key even is, Ashton? Because this is the second time that it's really played a prominent role in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I don't know, dude. I think it's kind of left to be a mystery. The only theory that I have, maybe it's the key to the briefcase with the $100,000 in it, but I highly doubt that.
Yeah, see, like, I could see where you're coming from there, but I think to make such a big issue of it, I think it's something of just a bit deeper complexity, and I'm just trying to wonder. Maybe an even greater fortune is what that key opens up. I mean,
I kind of have to wonder if they're going to go somewhere along the lines of, like, the supernatural for it.
Maybe. I mean, because,
for some reason I get this, like, you and I watched the Pirates of the Caribbean movies together, and for some reason I get this vibe that, like, in the Pirates movies, there was a key that opened the chest that had Davy Jones' heart in it. And that, like, for some reason, I'm not saying that that's exactly what it's going to be, but that's the kind of vibe that I'm getting.
Well, I mean, and you've kind of seen these allusions, right, with commentary saying, oh, the temple, and certain characters like King Cuerno and sacrifices, and there's like a lot of allusions to a deeper, like a mysticism of sorts, or like dark arts, or whatever like you'd want to say. And yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that key was a connection to something. I'm telling you, to me, like, I get this vibe sometimes that Lucha Underground's like this infusion of like Mortal Kombat, Street Fighter, and pro wrestling, like all this stuff.
Yeah, there is definitely a Mortal Kombat vibe. I mean, especially when you get like Drago and Phoenix in there, it's like you're mixing like the animal themes, and yeah, definitely a Mortal Kombat vibe.
Which sucks, because that would make Mundo Johnny Cage, and he was just my least favorite character. But that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, but he used to rip people's balls off.
Oh, God, yeah. Ugh. But yeah, I did want to speculate with you a little bit about what the key was. I just gotta say, for me personally, I can't really necessarily say, if I'm being objective, whether Mundo has improved on the mic or not in his presentation, but I love that he's got more of a badass edge to him in this promotion.
Definitely.
Where he's just willing to beat people up. Because, I mean, hey, I'm a simple man, and I'm with him. We want our money, so pay up. And great segment. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
I never get why it's always we when you're referring to Johnny Mundo.
Hey, I'm just saying, man, him and the rest of the Jomo Sapiens, I don't know what he'd call his fans now since he's Johnny Mundo, but we want to see him get paid. So,
Maybe Joe Moose Sapiens? I don't know.
Joe Moose, I like that. Yeah, like Moose and Sapiens, but I don't know. We'll work something out.
All right. Let's move on then. Up next we got Up next we got Famous B versus Mil Muertes. And the fact that you've never even heard of Famous B kind of tells you what kind of match this is going to be.
Yeah.
Kind of tells you what kind of match this is going to Famous B.
But in all seriousness, I mean, Ashton, I think you even told me in conversation, and I think this line could really just be my review as well. You only had one line of notes for this match. It was a mauling, dude. Mil Muertes killed this guy.
Yeah. I mean, what is there to say?
Yeah, he nailed a vicious spear.
This honestly, like, I won't go as far as to say Baron Corbin, but this felt like a Big E Langston squash match from NXT.
Definitely. I think that's a great comparison. What I love about this is Famous B didn't get any offense here. He even tried at one point to get his legs up in the corner, I guess, to kick Mil Muertes in the face. Muertes caught the kick, spun him around, and then slammed him on the back of his neck. They destroyed him. They destroyed this guy. Again, he connects with a vicious spear. And then, I mean, that's a legitimate looking finisher on its own. But then he goes one step further and he's like, no, I'm not done. And he hits the flatliner. And yeah, Mil Muertes, I'm telling you, if this guy is not the first world champion, I don't know. Like, he is just steamrolling everybody. And then Ashton, because much like Tom Phillips with Eric Rowan, Ashton has proven he does a better job at investigative journalism than Michael Cole. Mil Muertes actually used to be Judas Macias. So I'm going to let that sink in for everybody. Because, yeah, that's insane to me.
It's weird, though, because I wasn't watching TNA when he was on there, when he was Judas Macias. So right. I recognized the name, but I didn't necessarily recognize the worker. But I knew for some reason that you would have heard of him before. I don't know why. I just had this gut feeling. And I was like, hey, John, have you ever heard of Judas Macias? And you're like, yeah. And I was like, that's Mil Muertes. And you just like, what?
Yeah, it just such a disconnect for me. I really couldn't believe it. And you know what? I'm really glad that he's got this character. And like I've been saying about Lucha Underground, I think it's one of the best character promotions that I've seen. You know, it's funny because, Ashton, I think you and I to date have only watched one Chikara show together. Mm-hmm. But outside of Chikara, I can't think of a place that really has the colorful and imaginative characters to this degree. I mean, NXT has some great characters too. Make no mistake about it. But,
yeah, I mean, that might be true, but NXT's characters all feel very comic booky.
Yeah, and also, I think to a degree, very grounded, where I feel a very strong infusion of imagination with the Lucha Underground characters. I
mean, really, it does kind of feel like they're infusing just a little bit of, like, you're suspending your disbelief already for the wrestling. Let's make you suspend your disbelief a little bit more for the characters because we're going to infuse a little bit of supernatural into them.
Exactly. And that's certainly the case with Mil Muertes. I mean, the fact that they went out, you know, a few weeks prior and established why he carries that rock around with him, the symbolism, the significance, with the video package that was so well done. And I think that's the benefit of having somebody like Robert Rodriguez, which, by the way, quick aside, guys, I told my family that me and Ashton are watching Lucha Underground, and because we were talking about WWE and the Punk interview and McMahon's response, and we were saying, well, we found this great alternative, when WWE's kind of in a lull in Lucha Underground. And I mentioned Robert Rodriguez, and Chris's eyes kind of lit up. And he was like, wow, you mean you that guy that does the Grindhouse films? And I'm like, yeah, it's that guy. He's like, wow, that's amazing. And I think that's the benefit of having a guy like that on something like this, because you can give those kinds of presentations and just really grab everybody.
That really is the selling point, is because, well, I mean, realistically, if you are already a wrestling fan, the in-ring work alone is enough to sell you. But for the kind of the mainstream casual viewer, the selling point for this show is that tagline: executive producer Robert Rodriguez.
Absolutely.
I mean, that's huge. That would be like WWE being able to be like, executive producer Steven Spielberg.
Yeah, exactly. I'm telling you, dude, and I gotta be honest, and I want to say this now because I never really want to have to say it again.
Move over, Kevin Dunn.
Yeah, first of all, move over, Kevin Dunn. Second of all, I hope Lucha Underground doesn't deviate from the brilliant things that it's got going, because I notice sometimes when a promotion is still very young and wants to do things right, they come out like guns blazing and they do all this great stuff, and then they just seem to go off track when they really feel like they've got the steam and they want to compete with the world. I don't want Lucha Underground to get in that mindset for a long time. I want them to just keep doing this, and then when the time is right, strike that iron, because I think what they're doing is just such a compelling product. So nothing more to say there. I mean, do you have anything you want to add to this Mil Muertes matchup, or should we move on to the next segment?
No, I'm just really digging the work that Mil Muertes has been putting in, man. He's pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely, my brother.
That's it.
All right, our next segment was this the Drago vignette?
Yes.
Oh my God. Perfect segue too, because I was talking about how much I love the characters and Robert Rodriguez and just the value of
John,
having all that.
What was that about these really good Robert Rodriguez things?
Oh my God, dude, this was so good. I think what did it for me, because here's the thing, like, Drago is just a really cool looking character. We were talking earlier about like that Mortal Kombat undertones. This guy looks like he belongs in the league with like Scorpion, Reptile, Sub-Zero, all those guys.
Yeah, Reptile is exactly what I was going to throw out there, totally.
Yeah, and the voiceover work on this with the narrator.
The little girl?
Yeah, it felt so Undertaker-esque to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I loved it,
I got
dude.
that vibe, too.
It was great. She's talking about what the dragon is, what it symbolizes, but how time wasn't good, to the dragon. How it used to be, feared and respected, but then it saw a decline, and then, Drago.
Talking about how it had to evolve and adapt, and yeah, it was just great.
And then you get Drago, and it's just so good. I love the time they invest in all these people. I'm hoping next week maybe we get one, an even more in-depth look at Cuerno, or hell, Big Rick. I'd love to know what made him think, hey, I've got all this power, let me work for the money. Well, who should pay me? Who should I lease myself out to? And maybe go further into that. Like, there are so many stories to tell, and I think Lucha Underground recognizes that fact, and because of that recognition, it becomes a huge asset. Yeah. This was great.
Absolutely. This was a lot of just jaw-droppingly good storytelling in this whole thing. It was just amazing.
Oh, man. Drago, man.
I think Drago might be my favorite performer that was introduced to me through Lucha Underground.
Yeah. Definitely. I think I'm right there with you. If for no other reason, I mean, that freaking tongue that he comes out with, just like dripping over, like, he's just got such an amazing look.
Presence.
Yeah, that's such a great word, Ashton. Presence. Absolutely. I mean, this guy, I really believe, we're talking about who's going to be what, and I think in one of our earliest reviews, probably our first review, we both concurred that it seems like they're kind of going to build this promotion around Prince Puma eventually, but I see Drago being one of the top dogs when it really finds its footing and we're really off to the races and everything gets established that I think they want established, because this guy's fantastic.
He is.
So does that transition into our matchup, the rematch?
It does.
All right, Drago versus
King. Here's the thing, people. You got to realize John doesn't write anything down. Lucha Underground just has such a comprehensive card layout that John just kind of remembers how things transition because it's so logical and makes sense.
I know, right? I mean, I have one of the worst memories ever. I can own up to that fact. And Lucha Underground is just like, it's okay. We'll help you. We'll make sense.
Yeah.
Dude, I gotta say about the Drago...
Take notes, Dubs.
Yeah, exactly. I gotta say about the Drago King Cuerno match, and I really want to hear from you, because I love when you peg matches apart that way. I loved Cuerno's kind of mindset in this match, because for me, at least in the beginning of the match, he seemed like every offensive maneuver was very measured.
Yeah, it felt like he was just, like, he was done and he was not going to take any crap.
Yeah, like he was very aggressive. Like he comes right out of the gate with a drop kick. But then when he's in control of the pace, you notice like he slows down. It becomes more deliberate. It becomes more, like I said, measured kind of offense. And he just looks at Drago every so often just to make sure the prey is right where I want it. He carries over that quote-unquote hunter vibe into his offense, and I really loved it. I thought they told a great story here.
Absolutely. They did. He did. However you want to phrase it, this was just really, really wonderful stuff.
I love Lucha Underground in terms of their in-ring matches. I guess this may be the first time we've seen it anyway. Their sense of continuity, because we have in this match Drago getting that pinning combination that being King Cuerno the first time. Again, but King Cuerno kicks out at 2.
Yeah.
So he kicks out this time.
Yep.
But
he had it scouted, John.
He had it scouted, absolutely. And, you know, they tussle a little bit back and forth. King Cuerno gets a suicide dive to the outside that really seems to take Drago out. Like, he just seemed to launch himself at Drago. Gets him back in the ring, and then it seemed to be like a front-forward Death Valley driver for the 3 count for King Cuerno. So they are 1-1, and even Matt Striker said, you know, a rubber match has to be in order. I'm just wondering if it's going to be, you know, 1 fall like these prior 2 contests, or if they'll really want to settle it 2 out of 3 fall style.
Yeah.
So that remains to be seen.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know how likely a 2 out of 3 falls match is, but I do definitely think that these guys are going to have a rubber match.
Oh, absolutely. I definitely think that's in their future, and you're getting no complaints from me because I love how these 2 work together. This is a really nice rivalry at this place of the card for Lucha Underground, and I can't wait to see who really comes out on top as the better athlete. So we'll see what happens.
Absolutely. All right. Up next, we already talked about the finish to this match, right?
That's correct.
Okay, yeah. Up next, Johnny Mundo comes out, and I'll let you take it from here.
Yeah, he's coming with one purpose, and that's to collect. Tells Cueto, hey, I've got your key, I've got the insurance right here. I'm giving you to the count of 10, to come out and bring my money. And he starts the count, and then, see, here's the thing, Ashton, my stream did hiccup at this point. Did Big Rick come out first? Or did the other
Rick.
2 Rick did come out first.
Rick came out, and he was basically just like, man, would you shut up? And he was talking about how he was telling Johnny to get out of his ring, and Johnny obliged by promptly doing a diving forearm smash onto Big Rick.
Yeah, it was beautiful looking. Then he gets back in the ring and, continues the count. And then the other 2 lackeys, so I believe Cisco and Cortez, correct?
Yes.
Yes, Cisco and Cortez, they come out.
It's hard for me to remember because between the 2 of them, there are 3 Spanish-sounding names that all start with the letter C. It's Cisco and Cortez Castro.
Cortez Castro. Okay. Cisco and Cortez, they do come out. I think they start to put the boots to Mundo, but then Prince Puma comes out and he evens the odds.
Yeah.
But, and I like this here, Puma looks at Mundo. Actually, before this, Conan comes out, and I think he's talking trash to Mundo, and that's how Cisco and Cortez are able to get the jump. Then Puma comes out to aid, but then those 2 stare each other down,
And then they start throwing fists.
But we can't really classify it as a heel turn because Puma took care of his business, I mean, quote unquote, like a man, face to face. Didn't try to get the jump on Mundo, said let's do it. So I still wouldn't necessarily say that Puma has turned his back or anything. It's just he has beef, and they handled it the proper way.
Yeah.
Security quickly comes in, breaks the two up, gets a nice reception from the crowd. They want these two to fight it out. But then Cuerno emerges with the briefcase in hand. He says, okay! Like, really, like, I guess just done. Just 150% done with everybody. Says, Mundo, I've got your briefcase. And, Big Rick here, this was his signing bonus, but he didn't read the fine print. He's gonna have to earn this money. And then Cuerno pretty much announces that next week we are going to have, I'm guessing it's going to include Puma and other guys, not just Big Rick and Mundo. But
I'm guessing it's just going to be a triple threat, Rick, Mundo, and Puma.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking too.
But because it's a ladder match and there's no DQ, you just know Cortez and Cisco are going to get involved.
Right. And yep, just like I said, it's going to be a ladder match, and the idea that Ricochet and Mundo, even with Big Rick, and here's the thing with Big Rick, I think he could do some great power spots using.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I appreciate two flippy guys going at it in a ladder match as much as everyone, but when you add that power element into it, I think that it adds an entire different dimension that wasn't there before.
Oh, completely agree with you. I think that's why I was fun, while we're on the subject of Mundo and ladder matches, of his ladder match.
This is going to be a 3-dimensional match.
Absolutely. I think it's a great contrast to the two high flyers because it'll be a powerhouse, just slow him down kind of thing. But here's the thing with Big Rick that I also like. He's not like one of those big hulking guys like the Big Show or Mark Henry. He's just a really imposing dude. So I think it really all works out perfectly. I'm actually really glad they've added Big Rick to this mix. And yeah, this ladder match next week is going to be just insane.
Yeah, absolutely. I am looking forward to next week. For so many reasons. I mean, if you consider next week to be Sunday to Sunday, and I know that that's 8 days, but that time period is going to be ridiculous because ROH on this coming Sunday, and then Raw, and then that amazing Lucha Underground, and then NXT Evolution, and then friggin' TLC the fall. Like, everything is happening during that 8-day period.
It's going to be a glorious time of saturation with wrestling. I mean, man, just everything coming out of the woodwork. But yeah, that concludes that segment. I mean, Ashton, do you have any closing sentiments before we proceed to our main event match?
Our main event?
Yep, we have Sexy Star and Phoenix against Chavo Guerrero and Pentagon Jr.
And can we just say I called it?
Called what exactly?
This would be a match this week.
Oh, yeah, this week you did. I remember that, yeah. And
granted, I also said that we would get a 2-on-3 handicap match between Puma and Mundo and then Rick, Castro, and Cisco on the other side, but that didn't happen.
Yeah, but I mean, hey, we all break even, right? So,
I feel like it's inevitable. It's got to happen, but maybe not if Puma's going to turn heel. I kind of don't know.
Yeah, it's still so up in the air. I love that ambiguity is still going strong.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't want to figure you out yet, Lucha.
Because this didn't feel like a heel turn. Like you said,
no.
It just felt like Puma just being, like you said, just 150% done.
Yeah, squashing his beef, and again, he did it face to face, so I think that's just really telling. And but as far as this main event tag match, really great stuff here. I enjoyed the back and forth. Phoenix is absolutely insane.
What part are you referring to?
The whole part, like every
the whole part.
Every time this guy steps in the ring, or in this case, like was the legal man in this match, I had to keep picking up my jaw, and I really wasn't grateful for it. I mean, I had to keep dusting it off, and it was really a lot of work. But Phoenix just continues to amaze. I mean, there's one point in this match, and of course we're going to rewind because I really am kind of getting ahead of myself, but Sexy Star is holding both Chavo and Pentagon Jr., and Phoenix just does this dive off the ropes to the outside with so many rotations.
Well, and not only that, but the way he got onto the top rope to do it.
I know, dude. It's just
like he bounced off of the ropes like 3 different times and ended up landing on the top rope with his back facing them. Like, how do you even do that?
It's not even human. And you know what the fun
That's
thing
like
was?
how do you learn to fall off a ladder?
Yeah, exactly. The funny thing was, because everybody knows by now, because it's the El Rey Network, you and I have to watch on streams, and I think you and I do watch on the same stream. Well, the funny thing I noticed was like people in the comments were saying at one point that it looked like Phoenix was going to botch, but this guy knows how to recover himself, and then he does like a springboard dropkick. I think it looked like he was going to trip on the ropes, but he caught himself and ended up doing a springboard dropkick. Just beautiful.
Absolutely.
Beautiful.
Yep.
Oh my god. And let's not take anything away from Sexy Star either. She did one really crazy dive where I was scared for her because it looked like she was going to hit the steps or something like bad. I thought she was going to like crack a rib or something. I mean, all four of these guys went out.
Did she get up all the way up on the turnbuckle and then dive from there to the outside of the ring, or was it from the apron?
I believe it was from the top rope, dude.
I think so too, yeah.
Yeah, it was crazy, man. Like, all four of these guys really gave their all. I liked the heel work in part, from Chavo, working over Sexy Star again. Kind of got a little irritated with commentary. Like, oh, how could he do this? Because it's a sanctioned contest, and you established in the beginning that men can fight the women.
Yeah.
Yeah. Regardless, so some great work there. And then the finish, and I'll give that to you because it was just so crazy. Just everything just coming undone at once with all these guys involved.
I think the most notable thing is that Chavo just straight up abandoned Pentagon Jr.
Yeah, he did. He's like, I'm done with this.
He got thrown out of the ring, and he was with it enough that he could have gotten back in to help. But he was just like, I don't want any of that. And then Sexy Star was kind of holding Pentagon Jr. while Phoenix set up for his finisher, which is just like double knees to the shoulders, which is actually, coincidentally, Matt Sydal, formerly known as Evan Bourne. It's also his finisher in ROH, or at least it was before he went to WWE. I don't know if he still uses it. But, yeah, I mean, that ended up winning, too, because Sexy Star ended up, because she was the legal person, so she got the pin.
Yeah, oh my god, those knees. And yeah, it's funny that you say that, because my mind immediately went to, Evan Bourne, and just crazy.
Who's going to be wrestling Jay Lethal for the ROH Television Championship on Sunday? I am so hyped for this show.
Oh, I know. It's going to be amazing. But what's even more amazing is, again, we had a main event. Sexy Star was involved, and she wins. And what I love about this, too, and this is where I do have to give commentary credit, I know, shocker, is that they did mention that Sexy Star still has that unfinished business with Chavo. I wonder, because, and see, I gotta say, I thought we would have seen Blue Demon Jr. back by now. I'm really stoked.
No, they're doing a great job of holding him back.
Yeah, they are, because whatever climactic matchup Sexy Star and Chavo are in for, and for some reason my mind is
Blue Demon Jr. gets involved, it's going to be the biggest pop ever.
Yeah, absolutely. And the funny thing is, like, my mind is still fixated on, for some reason, I believe Chavo Guerrero and Sexy Star are going to do some steel cage-like matchup. I don't know why.
I mean, he's managed to get away all these times, so that's the next logical step. Absolutely.
I mean, yeah, so, and I could see, like, him beating down Sexy Star after the fact, chaining the door or whatever, and then Blue Demon Jr. just scales the top of the cage to make his return and does this ridiculous dive. Like, I've already got it all mentally choreographed in my head. So, yeah, I agree with you. I think they've done a great job with holding Blue Demon Jr. I love that they noted how Sexy Star still has unfinished business, and I love how, with this fallen hero, that being Blue Demon Jr., I mean, Sexy Star is in his stead to kind of get that vengeance and get that comeuppance. I love that she's such a fixture, such a focal point in this feud right now.
Yeah.
So, yeah, great main event, great progression for Sexy Star, and I can't
wait to see. You know
what
I think I love the most about Lucha Underground?
What's that?
It feels like every episode is its own pay-per-view.
Yeah.
Because, like, there aren't any actual pay-per-views, and because of that, it feels like they spend some time on every episode with endings to the matches that make sense to set up for bigger matches down the line.
Right.
But then they also have some of those bigger blow-off matches every week, too.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Like tonight, we had Drago versus King Cuerno, and that was a bit of, it wasn't a full blow-off, but it was a bit of a blow-off because King Cuerno had been stalking Drago. Last week, they set up for this match, and that's what I love so much, is one week they'll do something, and then the following week they'll play off of that to set up for another thing, and then the following week they'll follow up and have that thing.
Right. Right. I just love how seamless everything is from one episode to the next.
Yeah, it's not like WWE where they'll like a couple of years ago they teased Bad News Barrett, or not Bad News, it was still Wade Barrett back then, versus Randy Orton, and they had like a couple matches, and then next thing you know, Orton moved on to Cody Rhodes, and you were constantly harping like, no, he still has unfinished business with Wade Barrett, and they need to have another match, and it just never happened. And like WWE does that all the time, and I feel like that's one problem that Lucha Underground's never going to have, because they close all of their open ends.
Yeah, I'm actually so glad you brought that up, because you're right. That is something that, especially back then, really stuck in my craw, because I was so high on all those guys.
Or even the Randy Orton thing, how he's still never gotten that clean one-on-one championship match.
I know. And you know what? I think that's an excellent side-by-side comparison, bro, because I don't see Lucha Underground committing that kind of gross oversight.
Yeah.
You know, they address their business, and they address it in such a way that, like, what I really love about Lucha Underground, it seems to me, and it seems obvious, right? Like, pretty much every wrestling product does this, so it's not like it's anything revolutionary or new. But, I mean, it really embraces that everything builds on top of itself. I love that, because even with WWE, like, yeah, we do have our storylines and they're supposed to progress that way, but there are moments where, like you said, things can feel so disjointed.
Yeah.
With Lucha Underground, it just keeps adding one brick on top of the other.
It's great. It really, like, it's so good. And I love that, like, because, like, if you think back to the first episode, we had Blue Demon Jr. versus Chavo, and that all set up for Chavo's heel turn, which is arguably the hottest angle going right now. Plus, we had Sexy Star versus, back then, I believe, week 1, it was Son of Havoc. And then the following week, that's set up for Chavo to end up cracking her in the head with the steel chair, which is, again, one of the hottest angles going right now. And then our main event from the first episode was frickin' Johnny Mundo and Prince Puma, and that's another one of the hottest angles going right now. Like, you can trace everything back to episode 1, and everything follows I won't necessarily say linear, but a very logical, straightforward progression.
And do you see how when you adhere to that logical progression, I mean, the people that'll flock to your product?
Yeah.
I mean, I hate to be that guy, but this is the one time that I can use this line and it really makes sense. If you build it, they will come.
Yes. I guess sort of.
I mean, yeah. You know, it's like if you build it the right way and you've got a stable structure and everything else, they're going to come to it. I mean, again, WWE, there are times where it'll seem like they're on the verge of really like a character breakthrough. Like, just to touch on very quickly, because I don't want that to become a discussion in itself. Vince McMahon, in his interview with Stone Cold, saying that he felt like Cesaro doesn't have it. Well, you were on such a great track with him after WrestleMania 30 when he won the Andre the Giant Battle Royal. People were popping for him. The logical thing to do would have been to have him break away from the Real Americans as he did, but go his own way as just this amazing, technically sound babyface.
Yeah, I mean, that definitely would have been the logical, and I think that in Lucha Underground, if any situations like that arise, they would make the right decision.
Exactly. And you know, we already know what happened to WWE, so I don't even need to hash that, but that's just to make the point that I think, yeah, Lucha Underground would make the right decision, just like I have a sneaking feeling that Puma, I think, will eventually turn heel, which I support. Either that or hell, I would also take as the alternative, Puma drops Conan finds somebody else, and then Puma feuds with that guy, whoever
that could work so well.
You know, it's just, it's crazy. And I love even the smaller sense of continuity. Like we didn't mention earlier with the Drago, King Cuerno matchup. Angela Fong appeared again. And she was scouting, but she seemed disgusted. It seemed like she was looking at Cuerno, but he. Yeah,
you actually had a you said something that I really agreed with about how it seemed like, I think it was last week, it seemed almost like she was scouting Son of Havoc, and then as soon as he kind of came out on the losing end of things, she just kind of bailed and was done with it. And now tonight it seemed like she was scouting King Cuerno, and he got, I think it was, who was he going against tonight?
Drago. Yeah.
Once Drago hit that suicide dive, it was like she's just like, okay, no, I'm done with this. This is not going to be working.
Yeah, she's looking for somebody, and ultimately my theory was that it's going to be the debut of a new talent. She's just going to go elsewhere. She's not going to find it in the temple. She's going to find it outside of it and bring it inside, which, I mean, knowing, again, all the illusions of the darkness of the temple and this and that, God help us all, whatever she's going to bring back with her. But you even had an interesting theory, Ashton. Who knows if maybe she'll even start eyeing Mil Muertes and her and Katrina get into it. You know, the battle for Mil Muertes or something. I mean, who knows? But I trust Lucha Underground, and that's my point. Like, they remembered Angela Fong. And, you know, and I just love just everything. They're building so many stories at once, and they're building so many characters at once. There's a confidence to Lucha Underground that I really appreciate. But with that said, I think you and I really had a great discussion there. Do you want to move on to our closing segment, High Spots and Low Shots?
Yes, sir.
High spots and low shots. Look, I'll make this easy, man. My low shot is Son of Havoc.
Oh, yeah, I can definitely buy into that.
I mean, you know, comes out, says, you know, this is embarrassing. I won't allow this to happen to me. And then loses to Pimpinella, who is a legit performer, but is a fan to a degree of those mind games, so they get the W. Just a bad night for Son of Havoc.
Absolutely. My low shot had an even worse night than your guy, though. Famous B.
Oh, man, got destroyed. I mean, at least Havoc got offense.
Well, I mean, when I said his name, I was waiting for you to be like, who? And I would have been like, oh, yeah, exactly.
and you could. You really could, especially after tonight, because I don't think we'll be seeing him again.
No.
But, yeah, got utterly destroyed.
And by the way, for those of you that know about Famous B and you've heard of him before, I know he's a PWG alumni. Get off my back. I'm just making fun because he's a jobber in Lucha Underground.
And see, I wasn't. I'm just that ignorant. But I promise you I'm not proud of my ignorance. So, moving on to my high spot, I'm going to have to say my high spot is, you know what? I'm going to say it again, Mil Muertes. This guy has a clean record. I think the only other one with an undefeated record that I can think of right now would be Mundo, oddly enough.
Is he really undefeated?
Yeah, he's still undefeated, man. Hasn't
Wow.
lost yet. Yeah, I know, right? I can finally say he's winning things.
Not even Prince Puma's undefeated anymore after last week.
Yeah, I mean, well, hell, he wasn't even undefeated after the first episode because Mundo beat him.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I mean, you know, so yeah, Mundo representing. But yeah, Muertes is awesome. Definitely, I think one of my favorite characters in Lucha Underground. Such a great heel. And you know what I was thinking too, and I don't want to draw too much on this, but even when, like, if he does have a turn and he's a babyface, I could see him being such a great babyface too, because I think the head games would get amped up, and he would just be Lucha Underground's Undertaker, pretty much, like just playing those head games and dragging people down to hell with him. I think it'll be great. So yeah, great week for Muertes. He dominated, and he's my high spot.
Absolutely. My high spot is the man that got revenge tonight for the loss that he doesn't feel like he ever should have gotten, King Cuerno.
Yeah, man.
I mean, let's face it, his first match with Drago, you and I said it over and over and over again. It felt like any offense that Drago was getting was because Cuerno was letting him get that offense. And he didn't let him get that much offense tonight. And because of that, he won and was relatively, I won't say dominant, but I'll say this. He won decisively. He won clean, even though he's a heel. And that is such a great thing to be able to say in wrestling, because WWE almost never has that or allows that to happen unless your name's Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, really great disposition shown by Cuerno tonight, just hunting down Drago and just getting it done, because like you said, he toyed with him more the first time, came in serious this time, and he got the W. Excellent choice for a high spot, and I think that's going to conclude our review. I mean, do you have any closing remarks?
I do believe this is our longest Lucha Underground review, and it is worth it.
Absolutely. This is a fantastic episode. But with that said, guys, this has been Lucha Underground. This has been TWitWoW, the best wrestling podcast made for wrestling fans, by wrestling fans, on the web today. I'm John. That's my cohort and commentary, Ashton. Guys, be sure to comment and subscribe on YouTube. Discuss on Pweetoff who proved their worth in the temple tonight. And we will see you again for our NXT review, where it'll be the final stop before NXT Our Evolution next week, and we'll see what Adrian Neville and Sami Zayn have in store for each other. We'll see you then, guys. Peace out.